The Korean War, which took place from 1950 to 1953, was a pivotal conflict in the Cold War era, with lasting implications for the Korean Peninsula and global geopolitics. The war began on June 25, 1950, when North Korean forces, supported by the Soviet Union and China, launched a surprise invasion of South Korea, with the goal of reunifying the divided peninsula under communist rule. The invasion caught South Korea and the international community off guard, and within days, North Korean troops had advanced deep into South Korean territory, capturing Seoul, the capital. In response to the North Korean aggression, the United Nations Security Council passed a resolution condemning the invasion and calling for military intervention to repel the North Korean forces, a multinational force led by the United States and consisting primarily of troops from UN member states, was deployed to South Korea to support the defense effort. General Douglas MacArthur, the Supreme Commander for the Allied powers in Japan, was appointed as the overall commander of UN forces in Korea. The UN forces initially struggled against the North Korean advance, facing heavy losses and retreating to a defensive perimeter around the southern port city of Pusan. However, with the arrival of reinforcements and the deployment of U.S. air power, the tide of the war began to turn. In September 1950, General MacArthur launched a bold, amphibious landing at Incheon, near Seoul, which successfully cut off and encircled North Korean forces in the south. The UN forces then launched a counteroffensive, driving the North Korean army back across the 38th parallel, the pre-war border between North and South Korea. As UN forces approached the Yalu River, the border between North Korea and China, Chinese Communist forces intervened in the conflict,
launching a massive counteroffensive that pushed
UN forces back south. The Chinese intervention drastically changed the dynamics of the war, transforming it into a protracted and brutal conflict characterized by trench warfare, heavy artillery bombardments, and bitter winter fighting. The war devolved into a bloody stalemate, with both sides suffering heavy casualties and making little progress on the battlefield. In July 1951, armistice negotiations began, mediated by neutral third parties, including the Indian and Polish governments. However, the negotiations were protracted and contentious, with both sides struggling to reach agreement on key issues, such as the repatriation of prisoners of war and the establishment of a demilitarized zone (DMZ) along the 38th parallel. Despite numerous setbacks, including the death of General MacArthur and changes in political leadership in both North Korea and the United States, the negotiations eventually resulted in the signing of an armistice agreement on July 27, 1953. The agreement called for a ceasefire and the establishment of the DMZ, a 2.5-mile wide buffer zone that remains in place to this day. The Korean War had profound and far-reaching consequences for the Korean Peninsula and the broader international community. It left a legacy of division and unresolved tensions on the Korean Peninsula, with North and South Korea remaining technically at war to this day. The war also had significant geopolitical implications, reshaping the balance of power in East Asia and intensifying the Cold War rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. Additionally, the Korean War had a lasting impact on the U.S. military, shaping its strategy and doctrine for future conflicts. Overall, the Korean War remains a deeply significant and complex chapter in modern history, with its effects still felt today.